Hello everyone and welcome to Magic Pill Monday, where we look at all kinds of supplements and review the scientific evidence to see if it's a good investment, if it's gonna boost your performance, or if it is a waste of money. And today we're looking at taurine, which is most known as the amino acid that is also found in energy drinks such as Red Bull. Now this is not a coincidence because actually taurine was found the first time in ox bile, so it was extracted from ox bile. But we can also find it in our food in small amounts, and that is only in animal foods. You cannot really find it in any plant foods. And you've typically find it in like 100 to 300 milligrams per 100 gram of meat or fish. So this is a small amount. Now the body can also make taurine by itself. This is also typically a couple 100 milligrams maximum. But what we see from the scientific evidence is that in order to get benefits, you want to use at least 1 gram and maybe even 3 to 10 grams per day. So if the average intake of a person of taurine is about 150 milligrams a day, and we make a couple of more 100 milligrams by the body itself, obviously we're not reaching that number. So if we want to get all the maximum benefits from taurine, supplementation can help us there. Now, what are some of the benefits of taurine? Well, taurine, first of all, has been researched when it comes to diabetes, and what they found was that people that have diabetes type 2 also have significantly less taurine in their blood. So there seems to be a link between taurine and diabetes. Now, they are not sure yet whether, it's the chicken or the egg problem, whether it is taurine deficiency contributing to the diabetes or a diabetes causing a taurine deficiency, but there seems to be a link there. In a different study, they found that taurine protects against all kinds of things that are related to people having diabetes. These are like neuropathy, retinopathy, liver, heart, and brain damage. These are all sorts of symptoms that you commonly see in people with diabetes, and taurine is able to protect against those. They also looked at inflammatory markers, and they saw at least that in people with diabetes, taurine was able to reduce certain inflammatory markers significantly, such as C-reactive protein or tumor necrosis factor alpha. So what we can conclude from the studies we have so far is that it seems that taurine is related to diabetes, and that having higher taurine levels can potentially help you when you already have diabetes to reduce symptoms, but it also might actually prevent diabetes. So that's the first benefit. The second benefit is heart disease prevention or support. So we again have a couple of studies, and in most of these studies they used about 1500 milligrams of taurine a day, and they saw all kinds of benefits related to heart disease. So for example, in the first study here, they saw an increase in blood flow and a reduction in blood pressure. In the second study on the screen, we have people that already experienced heart failure and they are in recovery, and they were using taurine, and they saw that taurine can actually improve recovery and therefore increase their exercise capacity compared to people that were not taking taurine. So they saw an increase in the amount of time they were able to exercise, the distance they were able to walk or run or bike. So this is also good for recovery if you have heart issues. And in, again, another study, they saw also a decrease in inflammation and a decreased risk of plaque formation. So when it comes to heart disease, quite a similar picture as for diabetes. It seems that taurine can help people that already have heart problems to feel better, whether it is recovery or reducing the chance of another heart attack. But since it seems to help with those people, it might also actually help with prevention. So taurine is interesting for that as well. Now, the third benefit worth talking about is calmness. So taking taurine seems to be able to induce a feeling of calmness in people. Now, how could that possibly work? Well, first of all, we know from research that taurine may be able to cross the blood-brain barrier. In other words, taurine, when you supplement it, can actually end up in your brain. Now, here's a piece of text from examine.com, which is a great website that looks at supplements and science, and it writes the following. Taurine is one of the major inhibitory amino acid neurotransmitters in the brain, alongside GABA and glycine. And while the latter two amino acids have their own signaling systems, so GABAergic and glycinergic, taurine is thought to act vicariously as a neuromodulator of these two systems. Taurine is known to bind to both GABA A and GABA B receptors. Now, this might sound a little complicated, but what it comes down to is that GABA and glycine are two of the most important inhibitory neurotransmitters in the body. Now, what does it mean? Well, you can just imagine that when you're stressed and you're anxious, your neurons are firing a lot. And what GABA and glycine do is they inhibit the firing of those neurons, so they calm the neurons down. And as a result, you start feeling calmer yourself as well. Now, what this piece of text basically says is that taurine can act as a neuromodulator of these two systems, or it can also bind to the receptors of GABA or glycine, and therefore it can induce the same effect as GABA or glycine. And therefore, people that seem to supplement it, they can often experience a feeling of calmness. The fourth benefit that is interesting to look at is that taurine may be able to increase fat burning and metabolism, so the creation of energy. And now we'll read a little bit of text from a study called Taurine in Sports and Exercise. And by the way, just as all the other times, I will link all the studies down below in the description of the video. So let's have a read. Taurine modulates fat metabolism. Acute supplementation of taurine can increase lipolysis and reduce the contribution from glycolytic metabolism, thereby altering the fuel utilization and metabolic efficiency of exercise. Now, the key word in this text is lipolysis. So lipolysis refers to the burning of lipids, and lipids are fats. And we see that taurine can increase lipolysis, so fat burning. Now, have a look at the second part. The association of taurine in the mitochondria and exercise can promote an increase in genes relating to mitochondrial respiratory capacity, mitochondrial biogenesis, and fat oxidation. Taurine plays a role in fat metabolism, inhibiting oxidative stress by improving mitochondrial function and improving mitochondrial biogenesis. Now, that might be a lot of difficult words, but what we should look at is they're talking about mitochondria, and as they famously say, the mitochondria is the engine of the cell, or in other words, it's the part of the cell that produces a lot of energy. And what it shows in this text is that taking taurine supplementation might increase the function of the mitochondria, and it might also induce growth of new mitochondria. That's what they call mitochondrial biogenesis. So by increasing, of course, mitochondrial function, by creating more mitochondria, we see an increase in energy creation in the cell. And it also showed, again, that taking taurine might improve fat oxidation, or the burning of fats. So that is another interesting benefit of taurine. And the final benefit that we're going to dive into today is how taurine can benefit testicular health. And I have a piece of text here from a study called Taurine, Energy Drinks and Neuroendocrine Effects. And it says the following. In male rats, taurine and taurine biosynthesis have been localized to the Leydig cells of the testes, the cellular source of testosterone in males. More recently, taurine has been detected in the testes of humans and is also found in sperm and seminal fluid. Levels of taurine in spermatozoa are correlated with sperm quality, presumably by protecting against lipid peroxidation through taurine's antioxidant effects, as well as through contribution to the spermatozoa maturation process by facilitating the capacitation, motility, and acrosomal reaction of sperm. Now, again, lots of difficult scientific words, so let's make it a little bit easier. What it is found is that taurine is present in the testicles of rats, and later they also found taurine present in the testicles of humans. And in rats, what they saw is that particularly taurine was available around the Leydig cells. So these are special cells that are also present in the male testicles, human male testicles. And these cells are responsible for testosterone production. Now, when we read on, we see that taurine might be able to help protect our cells in the testicles by protecting against lipid peroxidation. Now, lipid peroxidation refers to lipids, fats, that are oxidizing, and that can happen all the time, and it basically happens as a result of being exposed to heat or light or high temperatures or some other mechanism. But when fats oxidize, harmful substances can come from that chemical process, and they can cause damage, they can cause inflammation. So it seems that taurine is able to protect the cells in the testicles against the harmful substances that come from lipid peroxidation, and therefore potentially just increase our sperm quality, make sure that our cells in the testicles are healthy, and therefore potentially, this has not been researched, also benefit testosterone production just by keeping the cells in the testicles as healthy as possible and protecting them against damage. Now, there are also some other benefits of taurine that we're not going to dive too deeply in, but one of the things is that taurine is essential for the production of bile acids. So bile acids are made in the digestive process, and they are mainly necessary for the digestion of fats. They are essential for good digestion, so if you have poor digestion, it might be a cause of a lack of bile, and taurine supplementation might be able to help you there. Now, there's another compound that you can supplement, but it's also made in the body, which is called THYROID, and THYROID is thought to also really benefit, again, the bile acids and digestion, but also protect the liver. And THYROID is made in the body, and to make THYROID, taurine is necessary. So perhaps by supplementing taurine, you can support the production of THYROID, so indirectly you might also be helping your liver health. Now, there are some studies in rats, unfortunately not in humans, that show that taurine has a beneficial effect on the thyroid. It seems to be able to protect the thyroid, for example, against the damage of fluoride, but it also seems to be able to boost thyroid health and therefore possibly increase metabolism. It also seems to be able to boost brain health, for example, by increasing BDNF. And BDNF is just a growth factor for nerves, for example, in the brain. So it might be that taurine can actually stimulate growth in the brain of healthy, good nerves. So these are some other interesting benefits. Now, unfortunately, the benefits for thyroid in the brain have only been researched in rats and mice or other animals, so we cannot be sure if those benefits translate to humans as well. Now, the next question that's worth answering is taurine good for exercise performance? Because taurine is often included in pre-workout supplements or in energy drinks, and the answer is not very straightforward because we have a couple of studies on this, but they show different outcomes. So for example, the first study here, people were taking 1.66 grams of taurine. They were looking at cyclists and their performance, and they saw no increase in time trial performance. Now, in the second study, they were looking at runners, and they were taking 1 gram of taurine, and they saw a small increase in time trial performance, 1.7%. Now, other studies, they saw, for example, that 6 grams of taurine could reduce the DNA damage induced by exercise and actually improve endurance. And in a different study, they saw similar results, such as that taurine supplementation can decrease soreness and decrease muscle fatigue, and again, decrease the DNA damage. And in the third study here on the screen, they saw an increase in fat burning, but again, no performance improvement. So as you can see, there are some positive outcomes, but also some mixed results. So what can we say about taurine for exercise performance? I think we can say that it seems to be able to reduce soreness and muscle fatigue, and it might be able to improve endurance. All the studies that show a positive effect of taurine are done on endurance athletes, so runners, swimmers, cyclists, and some of them see a positive outcome when taking taurine supplementation. And it also seems to be able to protect against exercise-induced damage, such as DNA damage. Now, what we can say against taurine for exercise performance is that there are a few studies that report no improvements in performance. So we are actually not sure if it is the taurine that is causing the increase in performance, and we are not sure what the mechanism is, because how can it be that in some people it does increase performance and in other people it does not? That is a little bit strange. Now also, we do not have any studies on resistance training, so people doing weight training, and taurine to see how taurine impacts their performance, because of course endurance training is quite different from resistance training. Now, another thing you can say against taurine for exercise performance is that it works on the GABA and glycine receptors, as we saw earlier. So it might actually have a calming effect, and that's not the kind of effect you're typically looking for when you're trying to do exercise. And finally, it may hinder hypertrophy, and I put a question mark there because this is definitely not being established in science. However, we know, for example, that people that do resistance training, so weight training, they get an inflammatory response in the muscle. This is actually the response that is triggering muscle growth, so this is a positive thing. Now, when these people take cold showers, it has been shown that these cold showers, because they are anti-inflammatory, can actually decrease the muscle growth potential that you get from your exercise. Now, looking at the potential mechanisms of taurine, it might be that taurine has a similar effect in the sense that it seems to be able to reduce inflammation or reduce exercise-induced damage, which actually might reduce the muscle growth potentials in a similar way as cold showers do. Now, this is, again, just pure speculation, so it might not be true, but it's something to consider. So should it be in a pre-workout? Because you often see taurine in pre-workouts. Well, to answer this question further beyond what we just discussed, there are some other interesting things, namely that there was a large meta-analysis on taurine, in this case in endurance exercise, and what they found was that there is no difference between acute or chronic supplementation, meaning it doesn't really matter if you take taurine right before your exercise or you just take it daily as part of your exercise regimen. So that kind of makes it seem like it should not really be part of a pre-workout, perhaps, because it doesn't really matter that much when you take it. Now, another interesting thing, and again I have a little piece of text from examiner.com, is this. And I read, "It is possible to be deficient in taurine despite it being classified as a non-essential amino acid, and deficiency states can be induced experimentally with overfeeding of beta-alanine, which competes at the level of the transporter due to being structured similarly." Now, this is interesting because many pre-workout supplements contain both taurine and beta-alanine, and as we can see here, they seem to compete at the level of the transporter. So it might actually be that if you take them at the same time, you are diminishing the effects of either beta-alanine or taurine, depending on who is winning this competition. So it seems not to be wise to take those at the same time. And as a result, I think taurine is probably not a great ingredient to include in a pre-workout supplement. Now, what about risks and downsides for taurine? Well, I just mentioned it, beta-alanine and taurine are competing with each other, so don't take them at the same time. Another interesting thing to note is that taurine supplementation can induce a feeling of lethargy simply because of its calming effect. So some people feel that if you take taurine, they calm down too much and they feel tired or like sleepy. And also it seems that taurine is able to induce a drop in blood pressure in some people, which of course can be a good thing, but depending on your situation, it can also be a bad thing. Too low of a blood pressure is also not a good thing. So that's something to be aware of. Now, when it comes to dosage, in the studies we typically see 1 to 6 grams a day, but we also even see going higher up to 10 grams a day. However, personally, I think that there's absolutely no benefit to go beyond 6 grams. It seems that any benefit that you are looking for from taurine can be reached easily in this range of 1 to 6 grams. And quality is not really a concern with taurine, which is great. It's just an amino acid, and you can probably get it from any supplier locally to you. Now, when we talk about herbs, quality usually is an issue because you're talking about it needs to be pure, it needs to be from a good source, etc. But these are not concerns when it comes to taurine. From personal experience, I had used taurine before and I saw mostly benefits when it comes to sleep. So I thought that taurine was great for sleep. It made me feel calm in the evening when I took it, and therefore made it easier for me to fall asleep. I don't think it was great for workouts. Again, for me, it had a calming effect, and this is not what I was looking for when I'm trying to do a workout. I think it's a great longevity supplement. It seems to have a lot of preventative sort of benefits. So definitely for that reason, it is worth taking. However, this also means that sometimes you don't really feel those benefits, especially when you are young, and prevention doesn't seem that relevant for you. So this is something to take into consideration. And finally, I like taurine because it's really affordable. It's one of the most affordable supplements out there. Final verdict, I would give it an 8 out of 10. I think it has an impressive list of benefits. However, what is lacking is human research. There's very little human research. Most research on taurine has been done on rats, mice, other animals. So you might see videos or articles talking about taurine, and they list a whole list of very impressive benefits. But when you dive into the science, you see that all of the science has been done on rats and mice. So I tried to include for this study, or for this presentation, I mean, as much studies that were based on human research, because I think that it is not certain that the benefits we see in rats are going to translate to humans as well. And another thing that is worrisome about taurine is that for some outcomes, such as exercise performance, we see contradicting outcomes. So there's still a lot to be cleared up when it comes to taurine. But finally, another thing that would give it a great grade is that it's cheap. So if you're looking to invest in supplements and you're on a budget, taurine might be a consideration because of its low price. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, leave a like, subscribe if you want to see more, and please share in the comments what kind of supplements you would like to see next, or whether you tried taurine before and what sort of benefits you felt, or if you liked it or not. I would be very interesting to hear about that. So thank you so much, and see you later. Bye bye.